If your partner or your ex has an avoidant attachment style, it can be really frustrating. At times their behavior seems to make no sense. They seem to want closeness, but when you give it to them, they push you away. And if you've ever been involved with somebody who is an avoidant, you might wonder what it is that they truly need and how to actually give it to them. Well, it turns out there is one thing that avoidants deeply crave, but feel that they can't ask for directly. Now, before I tell you what that is, I'm Brad Browning, YouTube's #1 breakup and relationship coach for over a decade now. And I would really appreciate it if you'd click like and subscribe right now before we move on. Now, what is this magical thing that an avoidant desperately needs but is unable to ask for? Well, that thing that your avoidant partner wants more than anything is emotional safety. They want to feel safe from judgment, from rejection or abandonment. They want to feel like they can express themselves without worrying what you might say or think about them because of it. They want to be able to open up to you, but they find it impossible without this key piece already being in place. And really, emotional safety is really the foundation of any healthy relationship. You can only connect so deeply with another person if you're actually living with this massive fear of them judging you. So you need that safety to feel like you can really be yourself. But avoidants have a higher bar for emotional safety than the rest of us because of their attachment style. So where most of us might feel safe after connecting with another person and getting to know them, this can actually make it harder for an avoidant to feel safe. Because the closer they get to you, the more they care about you and the more any potential rejection would hurt them. And that's why avoidants will put up walls and display flighty, unpredictable behavior. Now, partly this is because they're wired to associate vulnerability with potential pain or rejection. So they want that emotional safety so they can brave the vulnerability and truly get close to you, but at the same time, they fear it. So they reject the steps they need to take to actually achieve it, such as open communication or actually sharing their feelings. But why is emotional intimacy so important to an avoidant in particular? Well, the answer is it's in how avoidance forms in the first place. Avoidant individuals develop their attachment style as a response to unmet emotional needs during childhood. So maybe they grew up in an environment where vulnerability was dismissed, emotions were invalidated, or independence was overemphasized. These are the kids that were shamed for crying and asking for help. They weren't given the intimacy that they needed to grow and develop. Really, they weren't allowed to be kids. And as a result, they learned to suppress their emotions and rely on themselves rather than seek support from others, because seeking that support had always been a painful dead end. And while avoidants find they can get by okay with their own coping mechanisms, they often feel like something's missing. Because really, no one is an island. We need other people to feel fulfilled and connected. So their emotional needs are still going unmet. It's kind of like, they've been living through a famine. And when you starve, your stomach shrinks so much that you can barely handle any food at all. Even if it's right in front of you, you can only eat a small amount or you'll hurt yourself. And that is essentially the avoidance relationship with emotions. They need this emotional safety more than anyone, but they can't reach for it even when it's right in front of them. They've developed an aversion to it. Avoidant individuals often exhibit behaviors that seem counterintuitive to their needs. So for example, they might pull away when a relationship becomes too close or dismiss their partner's attempts at emotional connection. Now, this isn't because they don't care or they aren't interested, but because closeness can feel threatening. So the avoidance inner monologue might go something like this. They might say, if I show them how I really feel, they might judge me. Or I'll start to rely on them and then they'll leave. And then I'll be all alone and weak, unable to cope with life without them. So it's safer to just keep my distance than risk being hurt. But even though they know it's safer, it's also incredibly unsatisfying. Because remember, they need that intimacy that they're denying themselves. And this constant push and pull of their emotions creates a cycle, where they long for emotional safety, but then they push it away when it's offered. And the result is frustration and confusion for both the avoidant and the people who care about them. So why can't they just come out and ask for it? Well, we've talked about the fear of rejection. They associate asking for closeness with rejection and invalidation. But that's only half of it, because this lack of closeness, it also leads to problems with understanding their own feelings and their own needs. So let's take it back to the famine metaphor. Imagine you've been starving your whole life. You've been living off whatever you can scrounge up, but you're used to going days without getting a chance to eat. Now, given all that, do you think you'd be good at cooking or even really know how to feed yourself properly? Probably not. It wasn't a big part of your life, so you're not familiar with how it works, how to prepare it, or what you need in terms of nutrition. And in this way, avoidants have spent so much time suppressing their emotions that they now struggle to even recognize their own need for emotional safety. So they get into these relationships where they don't let anyone get close to them, and then they feel unsatisfied without really being able to pinpoint why. They may blame it on their partner or on the relationship, or they say, I'm just not getting what I want out of this. I guess relationships just aren't for me. I'd rather be on my own so I don't have to be responsible for anyone else. And this ties in with the idea that for avoidance, vulnerability equals weakness. So I look at it kind of like this. If you've been in a relationship with an avoidant, you've probably felt like your needs were going unmet. You reach out to them to ask them for more intimacy, more validation, more connection. Now, if you look at it from their perspective, you'd see that this scares the hell out of them. Like we talked about, they lack familiarity with emotional closeness. It scares them. So when you ask for it, they know they can't give it to you. So they may try initially, but ultimately they just shut down, they dismiss your concerns, and they pull away. And if you push them, they say, you're asking for too much. I'm busy and you're being needy. You should be more independent like me. Now, how do you think it feels when these emotional demands are coming from within? It makes them feel needy. They feel weak because they realize that they need you to fulfill their emotional needs. As far as they're concerned, they should be able to fulfill their own emotional needs, and if they're not, they've failed. Because needing something from someone else is threatening to their sense of independence. Asking for help leads to dependence on another person. And dependence on another person feels like a loss of control. Because now the other person can leave or fail or turn against them, and really they'd have no way to stop it. Emotional safety, by its very nature, involves taking that chance and relying on another person to meet your needs. So I know that I've made it seem impossible here, but it really isn't. This attachment style stuff can feel like the most important thing in the world, and it is important, but it doesn't determine every aspect of your behavior. It largely determines how you might react in particular situations because of how you relate to other people and your own emotions. But there really are plenty of people who are avoidant who have happy, healthy relationships that last a lifetime. And at the same time, there's plenty of people with secure attachment styles who really just can't make a relationship last more than a week. So don't lose hope. Instead, let's talk about some of the ways that you can create that emotional safety for your avoidant partner or your avoidant ex if you're trying to get back together. And by the way, I've actually made several videos specifically about how to get your avoidant ex back already, and I'll link to the best one right here in the pop-up and in the description below. So if you are hoping for a second chance with your avoidant ex, go and watch that video next. Now, back to it. The first thing to know is that when dealing with an avoidant, you should never try to manipulate them or force emotional intimacy on them. I know that you're only trying to help, to show them that they have nothing to be afraid of, but it is going to scare them off. There's nothing emotionally safe about being manipulated into closeness. So here's how you can actually earn that emotional safety together. Starting with number one, which is to be consistent. Avoidants are always looking for signs that they can't trust others. That's because of how they've been treated in the past, and it's also because they fear emotional closeness, and so they're looking for any good excuse to reject it. And one of the major red flags for them is a lack of consistency. They're very afraid that you'll seem safe at first, and they'll start to rely on you, only for you then to suddenly change or just disappear. And if you show them you can't be consistent, then you're showing them that it's only a matter of time until you let them down. So being consistent in your actions and words is paramount. Don't make promises you can't keep, don't create expectations you can't fulfill, and don't play games with them. If you can show them that you're going to be there for them no matter what, you can start to build a foundation of trust. Show them that you're reliable and that you won't abandon them, even if they pull away temporarily. This trust is going to allow them to feel more emotionally safe with you. And secondly is respect their boundaries. As I said, pushing an avoidant to open up before they're ready can backfire in a major way. It can make them close up, go cold, and pull away. So instead, you need to respect their need for space and autonomy. Give them the space they need and let them come to you when they feel comfortable. The problem is, since avoidants lack some of that emotional awareness that many of us take for granted, they might struggle to explain their boundaries in a way that you can understand. So, be on the lookout for more subtle boundary setting. They might get uncomfortable around certain subjects. They might be weird about introducing you to their friends or family. They might seem to get distant if you push too hard for closeness. And all of these things can be them setting boundaries. Now, obviously, this can be a bit complicated to figure out, but the truth is, we all do this all the time in relationships. We all know how to talk to people around us without most of them having to explicitly set boundaries. Because this happens at a subconscious level, but if we actually shine a light on it, it becomes a conscious process, and we become much more effective at actually recognizing people's triggers and their boundaries. And that brings us to number 3, which is create a judgment-free zone. Now, avoidants need to know that they can share their thoughts and feelings without fear of criticism or judgment. So when they do open up, listen without interrupting, without laughing or offering unsolicited advice. Empathize with them, by validating their feelings and actually asking questions. Saying, "I'm sorry you're going through that, I'm here for you." That kind of thing might seem trite, but it's actually one of the most powerful things you can say to an avoidant to show them that you're with them and not against them. And with that in mind, never turn their words against them in a fight. So if they reveal something painful to you, don't use that as a weapon to hurt them. Now that might seem obvious, but really I do see it happen all the time. Something like, "You're so hard to get along with. No wonder your last partner left you." That kind of thing can be really quietly devastating in a way that your avoidant partner may never recover from. Judgment is one of the things that they fear the most, and if you can show them that you're not going to judge them, that's going to go a long way to helping the two of you connect in a more real way. And number 4 is be a model of vulnerability. One of the best ways to actually encourage an avoidant to feel emotionally safe is to model vulnerability yourself. So share your own feelings and experiences in a way that's real but not overwhelming. Doing that can help your partner see that vulnerability doesn't always lead to rejection or harm. If they see you opening up to them, they're going to be more likely to do the same. Don't be surprised if they don't give you much back at first. Just trust that they're listening and paying attention, even if they don't know what to say. But if you can be brave and keep it up, eventually they're going to start to open up. And number 5 is you have to be patient. Building emotional safety with an avoidant takes time. They may test your commitment or withdraw at times, but patience and understanding are key to helping them feel secure. Remember, rushing into intimacy is one of the things that will trigger them to pull away and lose their comfort with you. So make sure that you're really in this for the long haul. Don't push them if they start to pull away. It's like we talked about with a starving person, right? You can't just expect them to eat a whole pizza right away. You have to sort of let them build up to it. And yes, it may take a while, but often it will be worth it in the end. And once you've created emotional safety with your avoidant partner, you are going to notice things start to change. They're going to start sharing more about their thoughts and feelings. They're going to be more loving and more attentive to your needs. They're going to, start to initiate connection in ways that they probably didn't in the past. So they might ask you about your feelings more, or they even might totally flip the dynamic and become the one pushing to get closer to you. They're also going to become less defensive or dismissive when it comes to, any kind of difficult conversations. And ultimately, they will start to rely on you emotionally. Now, with all that said, this process is rarely a straight line. It's not like you can say, "They let me hold their hand in public, so by this time next year, we're going to be married." It's going to be different for every avoidant, and they might still pull away at times and leave you feeling lonely. Now, finally, avoidants also need to do their own work to address their attachment issues. You're not going to be able to do it all for the both of you. But that is going to be a topic for a whole other video. All right, guys, if you take one thing from this video, let it be this. The one thing an avoidant can never ask for, emotional safety, is also the one thing that they need the most. So while their attachment style may make it challenging for them to seek or even accept this safety, it is possible for you to create it together. By being patient, consistent, and understanding, you can help to at least create an environment where they feel secure enough to lower their walls and actually embrace connection. Remember, the goal isn't to change an avoidant or force them to meet your expectations. It's about fostering an environment where they can begin to feel safe enough to actually grow and connect on their own terms. All right, and that pretty much brings us to the end of this video. I hope you learned something, and I also hope you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment below. I promise to read and reply to most, if not all, of the comments on this video, and all of my other videos as well. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Click the links to my past videos about avoidance in the description below and watch those next. See you next time.